The throne room of Veloria Prime had never known silence like this. For 300 cycles, the crystalline walls had echoed with the voices of advisors, the footsteps of guards, and the hum of diplomatic discourse. Now there was only the sound of breathing, one human, one queen, and the distant rumble of approaching warships. Marcus Cole stood at the base of the dais, checking the charge on his plasma rifle for the third time. Behind him, Queen Lithera remained motionless on her throne, her forearms folded in a posture that might have been dignity or simply exhaustion. Her silver skin had lost some of its usual luminescence, dimmed by fear and betrayal. "You should leave," she said, her voice carrying the harmonic undertones of her species. "There is no tactical advantage in dying here." "Probably not," Marcus agreed, sliding a fresh power cell into his sidearm. "But I signed a contract. Personal security detail for the Valorian diplomatic mission. Contract doesn't have a clause for abandoning my principle when things get difficult." The others found such a clause easily enough. Marcus couldn't argue with that. When the rebel fleet had broken through the orbital defenses 6 hours ago, the Queen's entire security force had vanished like morning frost. The Valorian Royal Guard, 50 soldiers trained since birth, had simply walked away. The diplomatic staff had fled on the last evacuation shuttle. Even her own advisors had made excuses and disappeared into the palace's hidden passages. Only the human had stayed. "The others aren't human," Marcus said, moving to the massive entrance doors. They were designed to impress visitors. 30 feet of carved stone, depicting the glorious history of Veloria. Right now, they were a tactical nightmare, too large to properly barricade, too heavy to close quickly. He began dragging furniture toward them anyway. "I have studied your species," Lithara said. "Humans value self-preservation. You have built an entire culture around survival instincts. This action contradicts your nature. You've been reading the wrong books, Your Majesty." Marcus hauled a stone bench across the polished floor, the screech of stone on crystal making them both wince. "Humans are actually pretty terrible at self-preservation. We climb mountains that kill us. We explore oceans that crush us. We fly ships into space when everyone says it's impossible. Those are endeavors with purpose, glory, discovery. Sure, but we also run into burning buildings to save strangers. We jump into rivers to rescue drowning kids who aren't even our own. We stay in throne rooms with alien queens when the smart move is to run." He positioned another bench. "Humans are really good at doing stupid things for people we barely know. It's kind of our whole deal." The palace shuddered as something exploded in the distance. The rebels were getting closer. Marcus could hear weapons fire now, the distinct crack of energy rifles echoing through the corridors. Lithara descended. From her throne, moving with the grace her species was known for, she approached Marcus, studying him with her large, dark eyes. "You have served on my security detail for only 40 days. We have spoken perhaps a dozen times. Why would you sacrifice your life for mine?" Marcus paused in his work, considering the question. 40 days ago, I was just another gun for hire. Third-rate merc who couldn't get work anywhere respectable. I showed up here expecting to stand around looking tough, while your real guards did the actual protecting. And you treated me like I mattered. Learned my name on the first day. Asked about Earth, about my family. When I mentioned my daughter's birthday, you had your staff send a gift across 3 star systems. He met her eyes. You didn't have to do any of that. I was just the cheap human muscle. But you made me feel like part of the team. That gift cost almost nothing. To you maybe. To me, to my kid, meant everything. He returned to his barricade building. Besides, those rebels out there are the same ones who hit the human colony on Taros 3 last year. Killed a lot of good people. So maybe I've got more than one reason to make a stand. The weapons fire was closer now. Marcus could hear voices shouting in the Valorian language, the harsh dialect of the southern territories where the rebellion had started. He finished his makeshift barricade, knowing it would buy them minutes at best. "I can still get you out," he said, pulling up a schematic of the palace on his wrist display. "There's a service tunnel behind the throne. Leads to the garden. From there we might reach the spaceport. The spaceport is under rebel control. Then we'll steal a ship. You would flee with me?" Marcus looked at her, surprised. "Your Majesty, I'm not staying here to die. I'm staying here to keep you alive." "There's a difference." For the first time in hours, something like hope flickered in Lithara's expression. "You have a plan?" "I've got the start of one. See, the rebels want you dead because you represent the old government. You're a symbol. But symbols can work both ways." He moved to the throne room's communication panel, still miraculously functional. "How many people are watching right now? This attack is being broadcast, right? The rebels are streaming their assault on every channel. They want the population to see my regime fall. Perfect." Marcus activated the communication system, overriding the rebel feed. Suddenly, his face and Lethra's were being broadcast across Valoria Prime and beyond. "Then let's give them a show. What are you doing? Making you more valuable alive than dead." He spoke into the camera, his voice calm despite the chaos outside. "My name is Marcus Cole. I'm a human serving as personal security for Queen Lithara. For anyone watching, you should know that the Queen's entire guard force abandoned their posts today. Every Valorian soldier ran, but I'm still here." Lithara moved beside him, understanding dawning. "You are shaming my people." "I'm showing them something. Keep talking, Your Majesty. Tell them what you wanted to do. The reforms you were planning. The things you couldn't accomplish because the rebels started this war." Lithara hesitated, then began to speak. Her voice grew stronger as she talked about education initiatives, about ending the caste restrictions that had divided Valorian society for generations, about opening trade with species the old families considered beneath them. Marcus kept watch on the doors while she spoke, his rifle ready. The doors exploded inward. Marcus opened fire immediately, his shots precise despite the debris and smoke. 3 rebels fell before the others took cover. He dragged Lithara behind the throne, continuing to fire in controlled bursts. "Keep talking," he shouted over the weapon's discharge. "Keep the broadcast going." She did, her voice shaking but clear, speaking about justice and equality while plasma bolts scorched the air around them. Marcus fought with the efficiency of someone who had nothing left to lose and everything to protect. He dropped 2 more rebels, then 3, his movements economical and brutal. But there were too many. Marcus took a hit to the shoulder, then another to the leg. He fell, his rifle clattering away. Through blurring vision, he saw rebel soldiers advancing, their weapons trained on Lithara. Then something impossible happened. The rebels stopped. Their leader, a grizzled Valorian with scars covering his silver skin, lowered his weapon. He was staring at something behind Marcus and Lithara. Marcus turned his head. A broadcast screen showed the throne room from a dozen angles, all streaming across Valoria. But it also showed something else, the streets outside the palace filled with Valorians. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands, converging on the palace. Not rebels, citizens. The rebel leader's communication device crackled. Marcus couldn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. Panic. The broadcast had worked. The sight of a human defending their queen while their own guards fled had ignited something in the Valorian people. Shame, anger, pride. "Stand down," the rebel leader said finally, in heavily accented human standard. He looked at Marcus with something between respect and disgust. "You have made this revolution complicated, human." "That was the idea," Marcus managed, blood seeping through his armor. The rebel forces withdrew, and within an hour, the palace was filled with Valorian civilians, forming a living shield around their queen. The royal guard returned, shamefaced and dismissed. New guards were chosen from the citizens who had answered the broadcast's call. Marcus woke 3 days later in the palace medical wing. Lithara stood beside his bed, all 4 of her hands gently touching his arm. "You were right about humans," she said softly. "You do stupid things for people you barely know. But sometimes the stupid thing becomes the right thing, the only thing." Marcus smiled weakly. Did it work? The reforms? The rebel leadership has agreed to negotiations. The people are demanding change, and they are demanding it because one human showed them what loyalty means. She paused. "Thank you, Marcus Cole, for staying, for fighting, for being human. Just doing my job, Your Majesty." "No, you did far more than that. You reminded an entire civilization what we had forgotten." She adjusted his blankets with surprising gentleness. When the guards deserted their queen, the humans stayed. That is the story they are telling in every city on Valoria. That is the story they will tell for generations. Marcus closed his eyes, exhausted but content. Make sure they tell the part about the reforms, too. The standing and fighting thing only matters if it leads somewhere better. "It will," Lithara promised. "Because of you, it will." Outside, the medical wing, Valoria Prime continued its transformati.